If you've been following me here or at the Irish Pagan School for any length of time, you'll have heard me talk about what the Morrigan isn't and why most of the popular frameworks for understanding her really fall apart when you actually go back to the Irish sources, certainly the neo-pagan ones anyway. We've covered the fear thing, the manifesting goddess thing, the she'll destroy you if you look at her wrong kind of framing that a lot of people fearmonger with. I want to do something a little bit different today because I think there's a question sitting underneath all of it, really. One that a lot of people are carrying but not quite asking out loud. And the question is, if all of that is wrong, then what does she actually want from me? And I see this in our YouTube comments all the time. What is the work? What does she want? And obviously our students at the Morrigan Academy as well. It's a fair question and deserves a straight answer. So I'm Lora O'Brien. I am a priest of the Morrigan and have been since 2004. I have a master's in Irish Regional History and I've been teaching about the Morrigan for many, many years. And I started the Morrigan Academy more recently, but still a couple of years ago. And here we draw on both the primary Irish sources and my own 30 plus years of lived practice. So if you're new here, welcome, Fáilte. So what does she actually ask for? The honest answer would be accountability, doing the work. And I want to be precise about what I mean by that because it gets used in a lot of ways that aren't particularly useful. I don't mean accountability in the corporate sense that some of you will be familiar with it, where you tick boxes and report to a manager. And I really don't mean it in like the self-help sense, where you find an accountability buddy for your journaling practice. Those things are all great, but I mean it in the older Irish sense. You know who you are. You know what your word is worth. In the Brehon law system, people literally had a value in our society. And your actions match your claims. Your honour is intact. Your ethics are intact. And that alignment between what you say and what you do, between your stated values and your actual behaviour, that's what she notices. I've been thinking about this a lot recently because I work a lot with trans activism, and we have many in our trans community and our friends and our family who have heard people, straight, cis people, calling themselves allies for a very long time and paying a lot of lip service. And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but still going out now and engaging with J.K. Rowling and her new money-making mission, this new Harry Potter show, that all of the profits are going to be sent towards anti-trans work. J.K. Rowling has been very clear on what she has spent her money on and what she is going to continue to spend whatever money she makes on, and this is directly harming trans people all over the world at this point. So this alignment between what you say and what you do, that's just one example, obviously. Your stated values, I'm a trans ally, and your actual behaviour, yeah, but I'm just going to watch Harry Potter anyway, sure, one more won't matter. That's the kind of thing that, in my experience, the Morrigan notices. And honestly, a lot of the time she's noticing in a way that it looks like she's not noticing you or paying attention. And what I mean by that is, if you are trying to get in touch with the Morrigan, if you're trying to reach out to her, if you're trying to contact her, and you don't have this alignment, your behaviour does not match your values, that's what she notices. And she won't pay any further attention to you because those are not the people that she wants. Okay? And this is not just my opinion, right? Read the primary texts in Irish mythology, and what you will see again and again is a goddess who engages at thresholds. She appears when things are about to change, when a choice has to be made, when someone is about to discover what they're actually made of. She doesn't offer comfort or reassurance. She offers clarity. And sometimes that clarity is brutal. And yes, I am speaking from experience. Again, though, not just mine, from the experience of the countless students that I have led through programs, the countless students I have mentored, the countless tours that I have taken around the Morrigan's sacred sites when I was managing the Heritage Centre of the complex in Rathcroghan or Cruachan. And this brutal clarity, she really demands that you respond with what's real rather than what you'd prefer to be true. That's not terrifying. It is demanding, but it's not terrifying. There is a difference. So here's where I want to talk about the gap between being interested in the Morrigan and actually being in practice with her. Because I think a lot of people are sitting in that gap right now and not always aware of it even. So interest looks like reading about her, feeling drawn to her, having experiences you can't fully explain, maybe building a small altar or working through some of the more accessible texts, maybe listening to my little podcast that has all the practices in it. That's real. That is legitimate. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that being anybody's starting point. And I really, and please hear me, I really don't want to dismiss any of that. But there is a distinction, and practice look a little bit different. It's what happens after the interest. And once the initial pull has settled into something quieter and more sustained, and you're building towards this relationship, because it's you showing up consistently rather than only when you feel inspired or something, a YouTube video catches your attention, or Lora drops a new podcast, or you get an email from the Morrigan Academy. Again, all of that is cool, but it is different, right? It's reading through the actual medieval sources in translation, obviously, but the actual sources word for word, not just the modern summaries. Now, maybe you can read Old Irish. I can't. I only read modern Irish. But the modern summaries are very different from the actual original source texts. And even in my book here, The Morrigan, Ireland's Goddess, which is my 8th book that was released, but I think the one I'm probably most proud of. I definitely worked very hard on it. But I did have to give summaries of the text. And again, not trying to dismiss anybody who's reading things like that. I know what overwhelm is like. I know where people have to start with this. And at least now you have accurate resources where you can actually get real, authentic information. Great. But it is about going that step further. This is what the practice is. It's doing the work that she's been asking you to do or expecting you to do for the past 6 months that you've been finding very good reasons to avoid, and really being honest with yourself about the avoidance. And it's also, frankly, developing some knowledge of the tradition that you're working within, because the Morrigan doesn't exist in a vacuum. She comes from a very specific cultural and mythological context. And working with her well means understanding something of that context. You don't have to be Irish yourself, for sure. But you do have to understand the context that this goddess was literally born in and exists in, rather than lifting her out of it and fitting her into whatever framework feels most comfortable or familiar to you. That's not your place. So I want to tell you something as well about what 30 years of this work actually feels like from the inside. Because I think it might be different from what you'd expect or what many people would expect. And I want to be upfront. It does not get any easier. I'm so sorry, but it does not get any easier. What it does get is deeper, richer, more layered, more complicated. That depth is worth having. You don't arrive at that depth by circling the edges of the work indefinitely. You don't arrive here by performing devotion for an audience, by setting up elaborate ritual temples at pagan conferences. impressive to look at, but that is performing devotion for an audience, whether that's online or in person. But you arrive here at this depth by doing the actual work consistently over time, in private mostly, without expecting immediate results or visible proof of progress. Because the Morrigan has very little patience for impressive performances, and she really has this genuine respect, again in my experience, for quiet, sustained effort. And the idea that you're trying to reach out to the Morrigan and she's just not listening, or we talked about what she's noticing and what she's not noticing, that definitely has a factor in some cases. But also time is a factor in many of the cases. People will come to me all the time and say, oh, I've been trying to get in touch with the Morrigan, but she's just not listening and I don't know what to do, and can you help me? And it's like, great, of course I can help you. How long have you been trying to get in touch with her? How often do you give offerings? How often do you show up at her altar? How often do you do guided journeys that are designed specifically to meet her? How often do you take courses? How often do you study the mythology? How often do you do rituals, do spells? And it's like, oh, I've been doing it for 2 weeks now, when I think of it like. So I know that's not a popular framing in a world that rewards visibility and intensity, but it's the one that the sources actually support. And it's the one that holds up across decades of practice. Speaking from experience. Now, some of you will take this and go do the work entirely on your own, and that is brilliant. Some of you will do it well, and I mean that genuinely. There are so many people out there who are really dedicated to this goddess who have never even fucking heard my name. I'm not saying that everything has to come through me by any stretch of anybody's imagination. And just, if you're going to get in the comments of, who do you think you are, and you're the gatekeeper, and you're the whatever, just fuck off, will you? Honestly. Because this isn't for you. Obviously, if like you're projecting into my shit with your shit, this video is not for you, this channel is not for you, and see you later. Self-directed study is 100% a real path. It is literally how I got here. And there are people on that path doing rigorous and grounded work. And some of them I have met after many years of them doing this work. Great. But I'll also tell you very honestly what I've observed over years and years of teaching, which is that a lot of people who believe they're studying independently are doing busy work. It's something that looks like the work from the outside that they can post on Instagram and say that they're a Morrigan follower and all the rest of it. Grand. While staying very safely within their existing understanding and their existing comfort zones, which is comfortable, definitely, but it isn't growth. And what structured learning provides isn't shortcuts, because there aren't any. It doesn't matter how much you pay me, I can't give you a relationship with the Morrigan. I'm not going to initiate you as a priest of the Morrigan. That's not what we're doing at all, right? There just aren't shortcuts through money, through social credit, through anything. But what structured learning provides is a mirror. And it's a framework that's grounded in actual scholarship, dedicated, devoted research over decades, and a community of people who are making the same commitments at the same time, who are doing the same work at the same time. And it provides someone who's been doing this long enough to see the difference between genuine difficulty and clear avoidance and comfort zone hugging, who'll tell you honestly which one you're in. Now, the Morrigan Intensive that I run each year is built on exactly that premise. It is 6 months of serious, grounded work through the lore, through the practice, and what right relationship with the Morrigan, core cuivness. actually looks like in the context of your own real life. Not my way, your way. It's not a course that you complete and then just file away. Oh yeah, that's done. It is a threshold that you cross, you step over with your eyes open. So enrollment for the 2026 Morrigan Intensive, it's only run once per year. It will open on the 20th of April. We're a little bit earlier this year. So it'll be open on the 20th of April 2026. If you want to be at the front of the list when it opens, there is a waiting list. The link to get yourself onto the waiting list is in the description below, and I'll pin it in the comment as well. And I will have more content coming over the next few weeks about the intensive, what it covers, what students have found on the other side of that 6 months of work. There are some reviews already on the channel along those lines. But if you're not subscribed yet, now is a good time. Hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. And one of the reasons that I'm going to be talking about the Morrigan Intensive is because I don't want anyone on the programme who is not ready for the work, who is not ready for the practice. So if you think you might be, maybe, interested, then definitely stick around, watch the videos, sign up for the mailing list, get the emails. All the links are below. You can definitely check out the blog, check out the podcast that's on this channel as well. And in the meantime, I will see you in the next one. Slán.